So this is the equation of something that started with 30 grams of seeds, for example. And I'm doing this example in class where I have this glass jar of seeds and putting water on them. They start swelling up and eventually they start growing. And so let's say it grows by 40% every, how many days did I say? 5 days. I'm going to put a /5 then. Because if we wanted to grow 40% in 5 days, then the 5 days that you put in would go right there. And do you get that would really mean you're putting it to the power of 1, which means you times by this just once. See what I mean? You take your 30 and you times by this, which would make it grow. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to make another one. I'm just going to tell you a story. I want you to set up the equation for it. For a while, we had a problem with moose in Minnesota. Their population was shrinking every year. So there were around 4,500 moose, and I did some research, and that's actually fairly close. So write this equation. We're 4,500 moose. Our population was shrinking 2% every year. Notice I said shrinking 2% every year. They should have an equation for that. That's it. That's all you needed. Because I didn't say every 6 days. I just said 1 year. You can assume you'd like divide by 1. And do you get your exponent doesn't need to be divided by 1, really? I mean, that's not going to do anything. So I hope you knew the equation. Please compare the equation with the kid sitting next to you. These two rows. These two rows. You guys forward and backwards. Turn it my way, Carlos. Nice. All right. 4,500 moose shrinking 1 minus 0.02 to the x. Now, I said every 1 year, but that would mean like divided by 1. Do you get why I don't really have to put that? Okay. But what if I said the data we actually had on the moose was it was shrinking 1% every 180 days. Please change the equation. It's actually really close to the same as 2% per year, but it's a little different. It's shrinking by 1% every 180 days. In case you don't know, 180 days is pretty close to 6 months, but it's not. So we could go shrinking by 1%. That's easy. 1 every 180 days. Now you know your answer is in days. And so if you put in 180 days right there, then then this exponent here becomes a 1. And so then you're just doing it once. All right. Now that was shrinking by 1%. Are there things that cut in half? Absolutely. How many of you are my caffeine people in here? You've gotten used to caffeine. I like caffeine. All right, so there's only like 3 of us. But if you're a caffeine person, caffeine stays in your system. It has a half-life, and I think it's every 6 hours. What that means is, if you have caffeine right before bed, it stays in your system for 6 hours. Do you get how that would be bad for your sleep? Because you're going to stay awake. I mean, they actually have things called caffeine pills where you can take them to stay awake. Like if you need to stay awake, like what if you had to stay awake? You're afraid your dog was going to die during the night or something. You had to stay awake. Well, you could drink caffeine. Half-life's every 6 hours. So we're going to go with a typical cup of coffee has 90 milligrams of caffeine in it. 90 is your starting number. Caffeine's half-life is every 6 hours. You might be like, well, you're not telling me how much it's shrinking. Yes, I am. I'm telling you it's half every 6 hours. All right, would you please compare that with the kid next to you? What do you think that is? I get you're not sure what to put on the inside, but if you think about it, isn't it going down by half? And I know some people are like, but I just put a half. It's the same thing. What's 1 minus a half? It is a half. So you can either put a half in there, or you can say 1 minus half. It's going down by half every what? 6 hours. That's why the divided by 6 is up there. Do you get from this that after 6 hours, you haven't burned off all your caffeine. You've burned off half your caffeine, right? So they typically say if you are a caffeine drinker, you shouldn't have any. And now some of you are like, I'm not a caffeine drinker because I don't have coffee. Well, the problem is if you drink pop, it has a ton of caffeine in it. There's some pops that are not caffeinated, but you might have some 3 cans of Mountain Dew during the day. Well, all of a sudden you put in about 45 for each can of Mountain Dew, and that adds up to more than a cup of coffee. All right. So there's a whole different world of exponents, and that is sometimes they're just simple, like 5 to the second. Sometimes they're 5 to the first. That's easy too. But then it gets to 5 to the 0, which is a little weird. And then it gets to 5 to the -1, and that's even weirder. And then 5 to the -2, you really got to know what you're doing. So I know some of you are going to start off strong here, and you'll put 25, duh. 5 to the 1 is 5, duh. And then I hope you know what the next 3 are, but I can't count on it. So let's talk about weird exponents. Because we're in the unit called exponentials, so of course there's a lot of exponent stuff in here. I'm going to pause for a second, and would you please compare those last 3 numbers with that kid next to you? Okay, here's what you should have said. 5 to 0 is 1. And if that's always confused you because you feel like it should be 0, here's why that would break down. Divide this by 5 and you get 5. Take 5 divided by 5 and you get 1. Take 1 divided by 5 and you get 1 divided by 5. See what I mean? That's why that's 1/5. And now this one gets weirder because it is 1/5 divided by 5 again, but that gets tricky to think through. So let me help you understand this last one. Would you agree that this must be similar to 5 squared, but different? Well, if it had just been 5 squared, it'd be 25. But it's not 25. That negative can be thought of as, what did it do to the 5? See the 5? It was like a 5 over 1 that got flipped over, isn't it? That's what that -1 power does. I want you to think of that as like flipping that number over. It's technically called a reciprocal. So then it's 1 over 25. Who had 1 over 25? I'm curious. Nice. A lot of you did. All right. So let's see if out of context you can just do another one like that. What's 9 to the -2? Don't say it, write it. You got this. Compare that to the kid next to you. First you just do 9 squared, and that's 81. But then you got to flip it. All right, 1 over 81. Okay. Now, I want you to put this 9 to the -2 in the context of a problem that has like x to the 2nd and y to the 3rd. Now, I want you to just think this through. Do you get, if we know the answer is 1 over 81, do you get that ends up moving it to the bottom of the fraction? And there's an 81 down there. Now, I get how this 1 over 81 turning into the 81 on the bottom is hard for some people. So I have a way of explaining this that I like, and you can choose to use it or not. Do it however you want, as long as you get them right. But when we have something with a negative exponent, I think the easiest way to say it is, would you agree that negative people are unhappy? If you're walking around all day long and saying like, her dress is ugly, that guy's a piece of crap, and this, this school is terrible. I mean, they're negative, they're unhappy. All right. There's also positive things around you all the time. There's like, weather was actually really nice this weekend, and our school just got ranked in the top 3 in the state of Minnesota. That's true. You could be focusing on the positives and negatives. If you're negative, you're unhappy. So we move them to the bottom, and it's the same power, but now it's happy. Do you get what I'm saying? If I take that 9 to the -2 and move it to the bottom, now it's 9 to the +2. And you all know that that's 81, right? So that's a way of thinking of it, is take the things that are unhappy and move them to the other side of the bar and make them happy. Now, you might be thinking, why would you be happy because you moved to the other side? I will tell you, my dad lived in a condo in Florida, and he lived in this spot right about there. That was their little condo. They were on the lower level, and he loved it because he was old, and walking upstairs becomes hard if you're old, and it's especially hard because you get groceries like every 3 days, and every 3 days you're carrying this big heavy bag. Upstairs, that's really hard. So he was like so happy he was on the lower level. So if he had been on the upper level, he would have been unhappy. Like he would have been constantly complaining about going up those stairs. Now, on the other hand, the younger people typically like to live on the top floor. Do you guys know why the top floor is better? There's like 3 reasons. Because you don't care about the stairs. You can walk upstairs 2 seconds and you're done. Why is it better living upstairs? Think it through for a second. What would be better about the upstairs? In fact, it's provable. The condos that are upstairs sell for more money. Did you know that the higher you go in a condo, like if you go to like Miami, every floor you go up is like 20,000 more. Next higher up, 20,000 more. Another floor higher, 20,000 more. So why are they paying extra to go up? Talk to the kid next to you. What do you think's better about the upstairs? So there's like five reasons, and many of you live in a 1-floor place right now. Like maybe you have a 2-story house, maybe you live on the 3rd floor of an apartment, but you might not know. Well, the higher you go, you get a better view for one thing. And if you go up like 10 stories, you can see a long ways. It's pretty cool. Okay, number 2 thing is it's safer up there because bad guys, super easy to break in your lower level window and they're in your house in 5 seconds. Okay, but good luck trying to get in the 10th floor window. You got to be like Spider-Man to get up to the 10th floor to break into your house. Okay, so it's safer up there. Number 3, you get a better breeze. A lot of people, especially if you live in Florida, which is where my dad's condo was, they want a breeze. They feel like a little breeze cools things off, so it's a better breeze up there. And the last thing is, when the floodwaters come, guess whose condo sucks? The lower level condos. And they happened to my dad's condo. Twice. Hurricane, water came up, soaked the inside of the condo, and then all the power's off because it's a hurricane. And so you don't have any air conditioning, and so your house is sitting there in like 80-degree heat with muddy water all over, and it just starts, the mold starts growing almost instantly. It's just nasty. And these guys, they're fine. As long as you're on, it's the 1st floor. All right, so there's some thoughts about why people would care. All right, so now here is a typical math problem for today. 5 over 25, I know you know how to reduce that. But here's the complication. We got an x to the negative 2 on the top, and you have to decide if that 5 is going to move downstairs with the x to the 2nd when we make him happy. And then we have a y to the negative 3rd down here. That would be like one of the easiest problems today. So I know you don't know for sure, but if this was the ACT test right now, write down what you think the answer is. What's the answer to that? Simplify it as much as you can. What would you get for the answer? I'll talk you through it in a minute, but I bet you we get only about, I don't know, there might be 12 kids that get it wrong. I'll pause for a second. You're just learning. So let's try to learn this stuff really well, because these are the easy ones on your upcoming test. These are the ones you're going to be like, oh, that's easy. Right now, I know it's not easy, but we'll get there. That can separate from the 5. If you didn't know, it's true. That is times, but 5 times x does not mean they're married for life. They don't move together. These guys move downstairs, and they become happy down there. So here, I'm just going to start with that. That x to the negative 2 goes downstairs, and it's now positive. X to the positive 2. That 5 stays up there, and the 25 stays where it is too. But it can reduce. Would you agree that if you reduce 5 over 25, the 25, if you can factor it, you should, turns into 5 times 5, and then the 5s can cancel. You may not have ever thought of it that way, but that's a good way to think of it. And the 5 is left on the bottom. Can I just reduce it to 1/5? Yes, it's the same thing. But I think this makes more intuitive sense to why the 5s cancel. All right, and then how about those y to the negative 3rds? They were not happy on the lower floor. they must be one of the young people who's like, I wish I had a better breeze and a better view. I want to move upstairs. Y to the third upstairs. And there it is. There's your final answer. Raise your hand if you had that one right. All right, we got about half of you. Now that you know how to do it, let's see if you can do it now. 6x to the third over 18x to the negative second with a y. I'm going to pause while you try this one. Got to just get a little better every time. Okay. Did you think about this being reduced? I hope you didn't move the 6 downstairs because he doesn't move. I hope you didn't move the 18 upstairs because it doesn't move. They're not attached to that x. So really all that moves is this guy. With that being said, would you please make sure that you and this kid next to you have the same thing? And if not, figure out who's right. All right, so the only thing I want you to look at, one last thing. I wrote this in exploded view, and I took my x to the third and I made it xxx. I took my 18 and made it 6 times 3. And now I'm going to move these guys that were unhappy where they are. I'm going to move them up to the top. Now, if you just look at that white thing, that's the only thing that moved. Now, do you see a bunch of stuff that could either cancel or like join together? I think that cancels, and I think these all join together. And so the final answer would be x to the 2, 3, 4, x to the 5 over 3y. Raise your hand if you had that one right. Now we're getting there. Almost everybody had that one. Okay, cool. Does it get more complicated? Of course it does. So you're in honors. Probably wouldn't have one this hard in regular, but hey, you signed up for the harder class. And let's put a 4 up here. All right. Now, look at the top of low. Is there anything you need to do with the 4 and the y to the third? No, it's fine. The stuff that's unhappy is on the bottom. And just to really clarify this, I'm going to erase this and write it in there again. That is to the negative second down there. I'm making it red. So now there's a parentheses. Does that change things? Of course it does. Okay, think it through. Act like there was $1 million on the line. Give it your best shot. What do you think it is? And compare that answer that you think it is after you move the stuff to make it happy. Combine it together and get the final answer. And I bet you only 5 people win the mythical $1 million. This is hard. I'm going to pause while I give that a shot. So I can tell a lot of people need a hint to make sure that they're on the right track here. Because people are not like comparing with their neighbor because they don't have any clue. So that is all unhappy. Do you get that if it's unhappy, you can move it to the other side and it'll be happy. I'm going to move it all 2x squared. And now it's not to the negative 2, now it's to the 2. I moved it. Now can you figure out the answer? Take a second. If I give you that hint, now give it a shot. Okay. First thing I do, move these guys up. And now there's a parentheses, 2x squared. And now it's not negative anymore. The only thing moving does is makes it become positive. Now, you have to know that when you put anything to the 1 power, it's like you're not even doing anything to it. It stays the same. So I can just erase this right here. Because another common misconception is, here, let me just show you something. 4 parentheses AB. You'd be amazed to think how many people think that that answer is 4A, 4B. because they think you distribute that 4. And I know some of you are like, yeah, I thought you distributed that 4. You don't. You don't distribute that 4 because it's a multiply in there. This is just the same as 4 times A times B. You don't distribute unless there's a multiply, unless there's an add in there or a subtract. You don't distribute that. It's not a thing. Okay, so this x is unhappy where it is. It's not married to the 4, so it can just move down. And there, my x is positive. X is to the positive third now. All right, and then what I'm left with is an 8 on the top because 4 times 2 makes 8. X to the, well, there's XX on the top and there's XXX on the bottom. So 2 of them can cancel 8 over X. Who had 8 over X? Nice. I suggested we'd be up to half and we are. But sadly, that's only half of you. So let's get it so we can get at least almost everybody to get one right. 5x to the negative 3 over 4x to the second, all of that to the negative 1. That's what today's problems are like. It's just a whole bunch of fractions like this. You're just doing a ton of little exponent problems. All right. If you didn't know this already, take all of that, move it up here, make it happy. It still keeps the parentheses on it at the beginning, but now it's to the positive 1. If you started that way, now see what you think the final answer is compared to the kid next to you. All right, I'm going to just do one step at a time like I keep telling you. And I'm going to take off the parentheses because anything to the 1 power, you don't have to have that to the power of 1. And then these aren't happy. So they go to the bottom. And then it's 20 over x is your final answer. Who had 20 over x? Nice, now we're getting almost everybody. Cool. So your job then is a worksheet. It's just like this. It's going to help you practice it. And I am going to have you skip a bunch because even though I'm giving you a lot of work time, it's just obscenely long. So find it, open it, and you're going to do problems 1, 2, 3, and 4. So if we're kind of waiting for people to catch up, go ahead and do problems 1, 2, 3, and 4. Remember the deal on grading. If you go and check the key and your answer's wrong, then you have to change colors and show, oop, I got this from the key. So if you're doing your assignment in black and then you're going to do your correcting in green, as soon as you go look at the key and you got an answer from there, you got to put it in green if you're going to be honest with yourself. All right. What do you get if you fixed all of them? 5 out of 5. Every homework score is out of 5. So I see these people that like give themselves a 4 out of 7 on that. What am I supposed to do with that? It's out of 5 points, people. Okay? So you're either going to have a 5 out of 5 because you fixed all of them, and you've got your work in one color and the keys in the other color, and you fixed all of them. That's most kids get a 5. But if you're not feeling that motivated, you can give yourself a 3 out of 5. What does that mean? That means I did them all, and I think they're right. And that's not that great of a score, but it's also pretty easy. You don't have to check the key. But you have to do them all. Okay? And then what's a 4 out of 5? It's something in between. You didn't fix them all. Okay? And then a 2 or a 1 is usually me giving you that score because you skipped a bunch of problems. Or a 1 is usually meant to just get your attention. Like, if you see a 1 in the grade book, you should go look at the comment. If I put a 1 in there, I'll put a comment every single time. And it'll be like, hey, you turned in the wrong assignment. Or I can't open this file, or whatever. Okay, so 1 is my attempt to get your attention. All right. Jack Breen, would you read me number 1, please?
In parentheses, x to the negative second, x to the negative third, and then outside the parentheses is to the fourth.
Okay, awesome. So the very first thing I got to do is just one thing at a time. I would like to do this power of 4 first. And I hope you know that these multiply. So it's going to be x to the negative 8 and x to the negative 12. Now, do you have to do that first? No, you could have totally put these together first and that would have been okay. In fact, probably would have even been better. But we're going to get the same answer either way. So now I'm going to go, what do I do with this kind? You put them together. That is x to the negative, and it's like you're adding the negative 8 and the negative 12. It's x to the negative 20. Now, a very common mistake is to leave it like that. Negative exponents are not allowed in the answers. You can have them in the problem, but you can't leave an answer with a negative exponent. You have to simplify it. So that's 1 over x to the 20. And I really hope that's what the key says, because I'm pretty sure that's the right answer. Anybody verify that's what the key says? Yes?
Yeah.
Anybody? Okay, good. Cool. All right. Awesome. Now, I totally get there's going to be a lot of checking the key on this one. And that's good. And it's not, you won't have to mark it wrong if you check the key, unless you didn't have an answer. If you don't have an answer and you're getting the answer from the key, write it in a different color, because I want you to be real about how much you knew and how much you didn't. So try hard in your whatever color it is you're doing it with normally, like black, and then hopefully it can not change when you look at the key because you got it right. All right. Then here's the ones you can skip. We're doing 1, 2, 3, and 4. And then starting on number 5, we're just doing the odds. Okay, so 5, you're going to do 5, 7, 9, 11, etc. Okay? So skip 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, etc. Okay? So do 1 through 4, and then after that, just do the odds. All right, that's all I got for you for today.